After watching this video, you will be shocked to find out that there is actually another way of playing the king's pawn opening. I mean, after pawn to e4 and pawn to e5, there's quite a number of moves that white can play here. For example, white can play bishop to c4, which is the bishop's opening. Knight c3 is called the Vienna game. Pawn to f4 is the king's gambit. And knight to f3, well, it's just knight to f3. I mean, I don't know. But this is not what I'm here to preach about in this video. The move here is pawn to d4 right away. Now for some of you guys who have never seen this before, this is called the center game. This move by white smashes open the center and allows white to develop his pieces with very great speed. So the main plan by white here is just to develop all his pieces from the queen side first before touching any of the king side pieces. And the idea is to put our queen on f4 as quickly as possible and castle long. By the way, which some chess scholars also call the reverse Scandinavian. Please note that we are threatening to take the pawn on e5 if black does nothing here, or let me say knight to c6. We can even go pawn to d5 if we want, which is why the most common move in this position is pawn takes on d4. Now wait a second, is the center game even playable at Super GM level? Well, let the Lichess database speak for itself. Well, as you can see for yourselves, well, it turns out that Magnus Carlsen and Nepo are the big fans of this opening. In point of fact, Nepo played this opening against Ding Liren in the chess.com speed championship in 2019 and emerged victorious. So after e takes d4, here, even though you can play knight to f3 first, I just recommend that you go on and take the pawn on d4, because why not? So knight c6 will be played by most of your opponents. They're just simply threatening to take your queen. The theoretical move here is queen e3, believe it or not, which is mostly played by super GMs. With queen e3, white is deliberately blocking the dark squared bishop. Let me show you how super GMs play this. So after knight c6, super GMs play queen e3. First of all, if knight b4, we can always play knight to a3, protecting the pawn on c2. The next plan will be to develop our dark squared bishop to d2, castle short, and we also have other moves such as bishop d3 and knight f3. We can also castle long, but if black continues normally with knight to f6, well, here we just play knight to c3, just a normal move stopping bishop b4 check, because the next move would be bishop d2. Anyways, bishop b4 comes, bishop d2, castle short by black, and here you just castle long. Now I should mention to say, up to this point, we have been following the game between Nepo and Ding Liren, which I already told you about. The link is in the description down below. You can check it out, but this time we are looking at a crazy way to end the game even faster. So instead of playing the normal way, sorry to say I hate being normal, let's go back and see why. So after knight to c6 by black, instead of playing the normal move queen to e3, I recommend that you go crazy with queen a4. Now in this position, knight to f6 is by far the most played move by black. Here black is just eyeballing our pawn on e4, and so we should play knight c3, just a normal developing move. The plan is very simple. We just want to put our bishop on d2 and castle long. Life goes on. Oh, by the way, after castling long, the plan is to attack from the king side with a pawn storm, starting with the move pawn to f3, g4, g5, h4, h5, etc. Now let me say something here. The most played move in this position is bishop b4. Sometimes you will see black players responding with bishop c5. Bishop e7 is also playable, but one move that loses in 10 moves for black is pawn to d5, which many of my opponents play, by the way. So if pawn to d5, just say amen and play bishop g5, pinning the knight on f6 to the queen on d8. In this position, 3 moves have been tried: bishop e7, pawn d4, and d takes e4. Well, after d takes e4, for example, I recommend that you take with your knight. The idea is very simple. Black's knight on f6 is pinned to the queen. So here we just want to take this black's knight here. And if black plays passively, we'll develop our light squared bishop to d3 and castle long. Very simple arrangement. Bishop b4 will be met by pawn to c3, provided that our light squared bishop is not on d3. Sometimes we can even bring back our dark squared bishop to block the check. And if bishop takes, we take back with a knight and castle long. But you will see some black players here playing queen e7. Black wants to take your knight on e4 with check whilst unpinning his queen, and if queen takes on a4, they will take back with a knight. That's what they are thinking. So your knight here is under attack by 2 pieces, and so what I recommend to do here is just to castle long anyways. Oh, Casper, we just hung the piece. Yes, that's what we wanted. Let him have it. What black is thinking here is that after you take the queen, he will take with his knight and continue being a piece up. And this is what you saw in the thumbnail and in the title of this video. Right in this position, you are going to shock your opponents with this crazy move. Rook d8, check. Now, this is one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen in chess. Please note that the knight on c6 is pinned to the king, so it cannot capture the rook. And if black plays king e7, then the knight on f6 will be pinned to the king, allowing us to take the free queen on e4. And the similar thing happens after king takes on d8, which is the only move. And this is when you take the free queen cause the knight on f6 is pinned to the king this time. Oh, wait a second. Did I just make these lines up? You can check the Lichess database and the chess.com database. You will find some games that ended this way. And by the way, you guys please consider subscribing to my channel so that I can be encouraged to continue making more wonderful videos just like this one. Hit the like button, leave your comments in the comment section down below, and please you guys don't forget to check out my courses. The link for my website is in the description down below, where you can purchase all my courses at very affordable prices with just 1 or 2 clicks, and you will receive your course. Okay, let's get back into the video. Let's go back and see what else black can do. So back to this position, we are still looking at what happens after pawn to d5 by black. Again, I say just play bishop g5, pinning the knight on f6 to the queen. We just looked at d takes on a4, but what happens if black doesn't take and play pawn to d4, attacking our knight? Well, simple, just castle long, pinning the pawn to the queen on d8, so black can take our knight. So here you will see black playing bishop d7 and pinning his queen and renewing the threat of taking our knight. So here just play knight d5, putting more pressure on the knight on f6. Bishop e7 is forced, after which I recommend that you take the bishop. I mean, it's always good to take your opponent's bishops because theoretically bishops are better than bishop and knight. Please note that black cannot take with his knight on e7 because we can freely take his pawn on d4, and that's why you're going to see your opponent taking with a queen, after which I recommend you play bishop b5. The idea is just to take black's knight on c6 and take the pawn, but if black thinks he's clever and take our free pawn on d4, what I do not recommend in this position is to take black's knight. Please remember this, because if you take black's knight here, black has a sneaky way of winning back your bishop with queen f4 check and taking your bishop. So here I recommend that you just play knight e2, putting more pressure on the d4 pawn, and after queen g6 attacking your dark squared bishop, just take that poor knight. Queen takes on f6 is forced, e4, and here you see black castling short. And what did I say? If you have a positional advantage, just go on and simplify the game in style. And at the end of the day, it is black's pawns which are going to be doubled along the c file. The next move you play rook d7, and you should go on to win this game. So that was in the d4 line where black was attacking our knight on c3. But what happens instead of d4? Black plays bishop e7 instead. Here I just recommend that you castle long, again pinning the pawn to the queen. Let's say after pawn to d4 by black, just play knight f3. Remember that this pawn can't take our knight because it is pinned to the queen on d8. And so you see black castling short. Again, just play bishop b5. It is a very important square for our light squared bishop in this variation. And our plans are very simple. We just want to take the knight and take the pawn on d4 with our rook. We also have pawn to e5 in the near future. I mean, what more do you want? Which is why it is not even advisable for black to push his pawn to d5. So instead, you will see most black players here playing bishop b4. Now this bishop is pinning down your knight on c3 to the king. Black is also planning to take your free pawn on e4, teaming up with his dark squared bishop while putting pressure on your knight. So here I just recommend that you just unpin your knight with bishop d2, planning to castle long. And please note that black cannot take your pawn because he's just going to lose a free piece after taking on e4. And if bishop takes on d2 check, you take back with your knight and castle long. So here you will see black castling short anyways, after which you should do the same, castling long. Even in this position, the score percentage for white is higher than that for black. Check the Lichess database again. Anyways, and here the plan is very simple. The whole purpose of playing this opening is to attack from the king side, starting with pawn to f3. Next, we are thinking of going g4, h4, h5, g5, etc. So pawn to d6 played by black, paving way for the light squared bishop. Just go bishop b5. Again, you see this bishop b5 being played most of the times in this line. Here we are just pinning the knight to the rook. By the way, in most of these lines, we always want to take black's knight, which is on c6. That's why we play bishop b5. Once we take the knight, we'll also take the bishop, which is why you will see most of your opponents taking on c3 with their bishop. You take back with a bishop. The knight is still pinned. So bishop d7 and pins the knight to the rook, and the game continues with bishop takes on c6. You can see that little battery there, intending to checkmate on g7. You're planning to go pawn to g4, g5, h4, and that's how you pawn storm from the king side. So that's how you play against the bishop b4 line. Let's go back. So we just looked at bishop b4 and pawn to d5. But what if black plays bishop c5, which is another common move? The moment you see this move, just know that black is eyeballing the weak f2 pawn, which is why I discourage you from playing the move bishop g5 thinking you are pinning black's knight on f6. Because if you play bishop g5, black has this nasty move, bishop takes on f2, and after you take, they'll give you a check with a knight, and at the same time, which is a discovery on your dark squared bishop, which you played on g5. You still have to play normal chess. Just play knight to f3. This is not even a gambit. You're doing fine. Position is equal. So castle short is what most of black players do. Bishop g5 is now playable because black cannot take on f2. We'll just take the free piece, since our bishop on g5 is defended by our knight, which is on f3. So h6 will be played by black. Just go bishop h4, maintaining the pin. Rook e8, eyeballing your pawn on e4, just castle long. That's the way to go. That's what we said. That's our main plan. Pawn to d6, just play knight d5, putting more pressure on the knight. And in this position, to tell you the truth, black is losing. In fact, there are some lines where you even sack on g5, let's say after pawn to g5. Alright, that's it for today, guys. If at all you enjoyed watching this video, please consider subscribing to my channel so that I can be encouraged to continue making more wonderful videos just like this one. Hit the like button, leave your comments in the comment section down below, and please, you guys, don't forget to check out my courses. The link for my website is in the description down below, where you can purchase all my courses at very affordable prices with just 1 or 2 clicks, and you will receive your course. Thank you for watching my video, and bye bye.